us why you're running for district attorney?
I'm running.
What you're going to do there?
Sure.
Why the Guardian ought to endorse you?
Sure. Okay. I've been a district attorney for 20 years.
Yeah.
Grew up in San Francisco. Lived all my life, went to public schools. Been a defense attorney now for over 15 years. So I'm the only candidate, first of all, who's ever been inside a San Francisco courtroom. I'm the only candidate who's both been a prosecutor and a defense attorney. So I think that background gives me a well-balanced approach to the administration of justice. I'm the only candidate who's really been a San Franciscan, lived and worked here all his life. So I think that gives me an opportunity of being knowledgeable and being able to deal with so-called San Francisco values on a positive way. I think the impression that people had of me at the first election was largely a product, not a byproduct, but a direct product of the licking I took from the Fangs and their so-called independent newspaper back then. I was accused of everything from giving up cases to being involved in the mafia. And as one of my Italian-American friends told me, if I'd been involved in the mafia, I would have won the race. So obviously I wasn't.
It did liven up the race.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. But people who've come to know me know that's not the situation. I mean, I was accused of being the god-awful Republicans. This time I'm an elected member of the Democratic County Central Committee. I think if you check my record, you'll see that I voted more often on what we define as progressive issues than other issues. Oftentimes I find myself aligning myself with Supervisor Campos and in opposition to then our friend John Shanley was representing the mayor when the mayor lived in San Francisco interest. And several people actually came up to me after one of the first meetings and said, you know, Bill, I'm surprised. The stereotype of half of you isn't what it was, and I just want to convince you too that's not. David Onick and I throughout this campaign, and I've gotten recently, have been the only two candidates who've steadfastly maintained a position that under no circumstances would we ever seek the death penalty. Me, based on my personal observations and reasons, the first murder case I tried in 1981 against Peter Keene was a death penalty case, and Russell Coleman was sentenced to death. Long after that, 20 years later, the case was reversed because of judicial error, and well before that. In fact, in an article that you published in your newspaper over 10 years ago, and I wrote a letter to the editor saying that I feel then and feel now that LWOP is the appropriate punishment. The death penalty serves no legitimate purpose. It costs much too much money. And another reason that I feel...
So you've changed your opinion on that?
I changed my opinion, yeah, but this paper this is from 2002. And there's a letter to the editor, and there, Fazio sees the light, and my position is actually a copy of it. Actually, it's the same in his main thing. Also, you tell the victim's family, we're going to get the death penalty. So you get the death penalty. So, okay, well, when are we going to see it? When is it going to happen, Mr. Fazio? Oh, call me back in about 20, 25 years, maybe. And even then, it's not going to happen. Tim, there's 700 people on death row.
Yes.
You know, so I mean, anyhow, so the district attorney from Alameda County, at least she has experience. But she doesn't have any local experience. I think, frankly, I've listened to her, I've watched her, she's much too conservative for San Francisco. Gascon has no courtroom experience whatsoever. I mean, he's never really been a lawyer. David Onick, I've really learned to like him. He's a great guy, but he doesn't have courtroom experience. In fact, I met David. We had drinks probably in June when he was soliciting my support, and I told him, I'm thinking of running. And I said, you know, David, you've got some great ideas, but you know, you've never been in a courtroom, you've never really practiced law. How are you going to effectively carry out your duties and obligations? At which point he said, I will hire somebody, you know, maybe somebody like you, Bill, with your background. And then when I went to one of the debates and I saw the three of them, and I said, I have the prosecutorial experience of Ms. Bach, plus, I mean that literally and figuratively, plus it's all here in San Francisco. I have the law enforcement background of Gascon, because that's all I could find that he had, really. He'd been a cop, and I had been a DA for 20 years. And I have some of the same sort of progressive ideas as David Onick. So I really bring to the table the best of all three of them all wrapped up in one package. And then when David said he would hire somebody like me, it was like, well, why don't I just run for the race? So that brought me around to run. And I always have actually a pretty exciting time running. Regardless of what we do, I get to meet nice people, renew my acquaintanceship with Savannah. and engage in challenging discussions. And you know, we go to these little debates. The other day we drove halfway across town to go to the Sunset Democratic Club. There were 4 people there, but it was still a nice interchange of ideas. And I think what I bring to the office is a background experience, ability to really get the place back in, because the place is basically, it's kind of floundering right now. David likes to say that the system is broke. I don't know if it's broke, but it's pretty close to it. I like to analogize it to a ship kind of adrift. There may not be no imminent danger of it sinking, but who knows what it's going to run into. And the only reason it's staying afloat nominally now is because some of the people in the office who are really running the office. I mean, the current appointed district attorney, in my opinion, has absolutely no idea or concept. And I mean, you know, this guy has had 4 jobs in the last 5 years. And when he woke up the morning he got appointed, being district attorney wasn't on his mind. I have, you know, and I'm still really bothered by that, because there were people that I thought the mayor would have seriously considered who had background, and none of them were me, by the way, so it wasn't a personal. At one point in time, there was consideration that I might be interested in the job, but I removed my name from that very early in the consideration. But you know, there were lawyers.
Why?
Because of personal family issues, and those have kind of been resolved. My son is very sick, but he's doing, like my grown son, but he's doing better. And you know, I talked about it, and so that was the reason. And so you know, so actually, if you guys have questions for me, I prefer to answer questions rather than rattling.